started tonight, want to acknowledge the fact that today is May 20th, which today is the 2-year anniversary of the passing of a great hero in wrestling, Shad Gaspard, who was finally acknowledged by WWE this year in the Hall of Fame by giving him posthumously the Warrior Award. Massive shout out to Shad. Rest in peace. From all dads out there, thank you. All right, good night. Apparently, we don't have anything else to talk about tonight. I mean, we're going to talk about Dynamite. We're going to talk about a little bit of Japanese wrestling. We're going to have a little funny ha-ha. We might do some trivia tonight, but nothing really wait. Welcome to Wrestling with Egos. However you might be listening to us or watching this crazy episode, whether it be on YouTube, Anchor Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Intergalactic Radio. Thank you guys so much for making this episode a part of your weekly wrestling entertainment. And thank you guys for the feedback last week. Holy cow. We had a blast on that one, and apparently you guys did too, because it is now the most viewed episode in the history of Wrestling with Egos. Read into that all you want, because that might mean we had big numbers, or we just had larger than the 7 views that we normally have. Read into that however you want. I'm going to read option A, not B. Why? Because I'm thinking positive. My name's Patrick, and I'm joined on this crazy show each and every week by these 2 cats in the black shirts over here, my boys Brian and Isaac. Gentlemans, how we doing?
If you think that nothing worthwhile happened in the wrestling world this week, then I suggest you go and renew all your subscriptions to all your wrestling news sources, because stuff went down, and we're going to break it down, and we're going to give our opinions about it.
Lies and propaganda. That's all it was. Lies and propaganda. Nothing happened. Nothing to see here. No. Yes. A lot happened. I'm just downplaying it. Isaac, how you doing, boy?
What are you guys referring to?
I know, right?
Now both of them are doing. Okay, well, okay.
What?
Let's.
Did something major happen?
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about that segment from Dynamite that really, really pissed me off. And I promise we're going to get to that here in a little bit. Trust me. Yeah, that's definitely what we're talking about. But before we get into that, we've got got some really fun stuff to talk about tonight. One thing I really wanted to definitely want to talk about tonight was this past Wednesday's AEW Dynamite, which we are now officially on the legitimate road to Double or Nothing next Sunday, live on pay-per-view with the main event of CM Punk and Hangman Adam Page for the title. Dude, we'll preview this thing a little bit more next week, but holy mother of God, this show looks like it's going to be one hell of a card. They just keep stacking the deck. We're getting... It was just announced on Dynamite we're getting Jurassic Express versus Keith Lee and Swerve versus Hobbs and Ricky Starks. Heck yeah! That is going to... Okay. Think about this scenario. You get Luchasaurus, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Keith Lee all in the ring at the same damn time. We gonna have an earthquake happening in that ring, because somebody's gonna get dropped. And it's gonna be, as Big E would say, big meaty men slapping meat.
We're gonna have to strongly consider renaming. I actually think we did rename it last year. The Iggy for worst performer of the year.
Oh yeah, no. It was initially the Ricky Starks Award. Then it became the Nia Jax Award, but we didn't name it last year because Nia Jax had been through enough. Honestly and truly, I think we might be comfortable sticking that on Red Velvet.
Yes.
Because I'm still willing to die.
all of a sudden, Ricky Starks has found himself as a total package.
I have personally tried to avoid this conversation on this show for a while, because if you've watched this show before, you know I could not stand the guy. I thought he was garbage in the ring, and I thought he was the most boring. He was unintentionally dull, as opposed to Lance Armstrong. Good God, Lance Storm. If I could be serious for a moment. Like freaking Eddie the Eagle from the Muppet Show, or Sandy Eagle, just words. No
well,
fish.
I think it's that they gave him a chance. They realized, okay, we've got something here, but we need to give him more reps. It's just like anybody gets good at anything, you get reps, and whether those reps are on Elevation or they're on Dynamite or they're on Dark or whatever, he's gotten his reps and he's rounding himself into a complete character now.
Yes, he is, and I can't believe I'm going to say this because it's been such a massive 180 over the last 18 months, but I kind of like what they're doing with him. I really hope that we're slowly getting to the destruction of Team Taz, because I think it's kind of run its course, because Brian Cage isn't around. Ricky Starks is really coming into his own. Powerhouse Hobbs sucks, in my opinion. And then there's Hook. Hook does not need to be. Hook needs to be in Team Taz about as much as I need to be a middle linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers. No. One of these things just doesn't belong.
Call him up, Coach Harbaugh. Call him up.
Yeah. Just.
Oh, not that he's not the coach anymore. Sorry. Kyle Shanahan. Call him up, Coach Shanahan.
Whoever. You know, call Jim Mora. Thank you, Jim Mora. Playoffs? We'll talk about playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? That would never get old. Anyway, moving right along. But yeah, so many great matches, and they'll build up to some of these matches. Like, we're going to get Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb. And Serena Deeb took a verbal flamethrower to AEW's entire roster on Wednesday night. I mean, to the point, it was kind of the three of us, I am probably the least likely to feel uncomfortable watching a situation like that. And I felt really damn uncomfortable. It was like, ooh. I mean, she went, again, verbal napalm on anyone she could get her hands on, including Dustin Rhodes. Even referencing the fact that she got breast implants to try and make herself more noticeable. She shaved her head to prove how bad she wanted it. Like, wow. Okay. We're going here. Do not get me wrong. Serena Deeb is an absolute wizard in the ring. I love watching her work. And we all know how everybody on this show feels about the reigning, defending, undisputed AEW women's champion of the world, Thunder Rosa.
I might go so far. This is not an official prediction yet, though. In my opinion, we don't do all this stuff with Serena Deeb to have her lose to Rosa again, or have her lose to Rosa on Sunday next week. So I feel like Serena Deeb might be going over next weekend.
I would not be surprised. At the same time,
it's going to be a barn burner. Don't get me wrong. It's not going to be anything cheap.
Here's why I'm not willing to stamp that at all. We have seen AEW make decisions on title changes that were already questionable as it is, because the champion's defending against someone who probably should kick the crap out of them, and they somehow win. And yes, I'm talking about Hangman Page.
Lance Archer.
Lance Archer, Bryan Danielson.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been moments that Hangman should not have retained. And honestly and truly, I think this coming Sunday might be another one of them. I would not be surprised if he went completely heel and turned and beat CM Punk. Wouldn't be surprised at all. Anyway, moving right along. I also have another theory about that we will get to next week. Anyway, sorry, completely lost my train of thought.
Talking about Dynamite.
Yes, thank you. I gotta, for everything that Dynamite's doing right, and I know there's a match that you wanted to talk about, Brian, and we will get to that in the last part of this segment.
Sure.
They did something in the show that really, really made me mad. And it wasn't a creative decision. It wasn't something that a commentator said. It was the order in which they did things, which really pissed me off. So we have verbal napalm segment between Chris Jericho and William Regal, which went on about 4 minutes longer than it needed to, but that's besides the point. What bothers me is the fact that we end this segment with Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson shoving the living hell out of each other, and we're about to scrap. And just as we get this about to scrap to pull apart levels, oh my gosh, we have to cut away to the back and hear from freaking Matt Sydal and Dante Martin. I don't give a damn about either one of them at that point in time. You know why? Because there are two guys in the ring who are really, really good, and they're about to throw hands. But we got to go to Dante Martin and Matt Sydal.
That I remember that too, and it seemed counterproductive.
Forced.
Yeah.
We want you to care about these guys, so we're going to cut off probably the hottest storyline we've got for this. It's almost like, hey, we're going to put this really crappy show behind a rerun of Big Bang Theory because the carryover will draw a number.
No, doesn't work that way.
I don't know why why TV execs still think that works, because guess what? It doesn't. We've all wised up to it. You put on something crappy after Big Bang Theory, click. We watch Big Bang Theory, and then you give us an episode of How I Met Your Father. Like,
yeah.
That show is absolute garbage. I'm like, how can you take such a great concept of How I Met Your Mother and literally recycle it and make it this bad?
Nothing's original anymore.
No, I mean, this is as bad, if not worse, than when Disney did Girl Meets World. That one bothered me because it wasn't good, and you're messing with Corey and Topanga, and no. Anyway, I'm gonna be all over the place tonight, guys, because I'm having fun. So yeah, again, I think for me, as good as the in-ring product has been for AEW, the execution of their TV shows have been ass.
Do you think it's a case of there's people in charge of that who are still learning how to do TV?
No.
For lack of a better term?
The executive producer of all things television for AEW was a guy named Craig Leathers. Craig Leathers not only was the executive producer for God knows how many years of the Atlanta Braves when Turner owned them. He was also the executive producer of WCW. Craig Leathers knows what the shit he's doing when it comes to wrestling.
Okay.
That is not a guy in the truck going click. That is a guy on a headset putting things in order. Tony Khan. His guys can go in the ring and they can make magic. But he books a show like a guy with ADHD and no medication.
Here's the other thing real quick. They have enough people with a lot of knowledge to know how to run a show. They have enough people backstage that have seen a show come off the right way and how to do it. So there's really no excuse at all for anyone to sit here and say, you know what, we don't know what we're doing. They know what they're doing. They have to.
Yeah. Again, Jenny, get out of here. Thank you. I'm about to say, I knew exactly what that cat was about to do, and we do not need to be seeing that on this YouTube show.
I can talk wrestling.
No. She shoved her butt in my face. Is what Apparently, that's how cats let you know they trust each other. They trust their humans. And apparently, Jenny trusts everybody in the entire world. Can't look at my butthole. I'm going to edit that out. I'm going to edit that out. Yeah. 3, 2, 1. So, Brian, amongst all that schmoz of the missteps in television production, as we'll call it, they did something on Dynamite that really got everybody's attention, especially yours. And you told me you wanted to talk about it.
Yes. Among the many reasons why Dynamite has actually become appointment television for me, at the expense of Raw and NXT and SmackDown, is it seems like every week, or darn near every week, I am getting exposure to a Japanese talent that I had never heard of before. And these are not just random people either. We got Minoru Suzuki over the winter. We got Switchblade Jay White appearing on television earlier this year, which had me salivating. And then this week, Hangman Adam Page in a tune-up for CM Punk. And by the way, boy, did Hangman Adam Page get tuned up for CM Punk, because he was in the ring with Kansuke Takeshita, who, no surprise, never heard of him before. But listening to the commentator team talking about his accomplishments, listening to the lineage of people he's worked with, names that I recognized from earlier years of New Japan.
There were two that stood out to me, and I was like, ooh, I really know those names. Number 1, Tenryu.
Yes.
Number 2, Keiji Muto.
Thank you for not asking me who they were, because I don't remember the names. I know there was a lineage of names mentioned.
Do you know who Keiji Muto is?
No, I probably should.
Yeah, you should. It's the Great Muta.
Okay, then all right.
Muta.
Yes, then fine. But this guy, and I'm not going to call him a kid like JR calls everybody a kid. That's what annoys me about JR. A great young kid, and I know this guy's probably been wrestling for like 20 years or something like that.
JR would call AJ Styles a kid. And
yes.
for the AJ Styles is our age.
Yeah. But it was a breath of fresh air that you can keep importing these people in and broadening people's knowledge base. Because Takeshita gave as good as he got. throughout this match. It was a nice snug 12-minute match because I got, the whatever website I'm on right now actually has the lengths of all the matches. It was a nice snug 12 minutes, but they did a great job of making sure that Takeshita was on equal footing to Hangman. This was not just a squash.
Takeshita beat the living hell out of Adam Hangman Page.
Yes, he did.
The shots that he landed were violent.
And the offense that he absorbed without really missing a beat, he was still able to go on to the next thing. I thought that was tremendous.
He did something that, and I ended up talking to RJ about this during Dynamite because he and I were both watching it live. You guys were a little bit behind. But I was talking with RJ about it, and there were a lot of things that Takeshita did that reminded me a lot. And you'll remember this. He's been on a homework assignment in the past. Masato Tanaka from the ECW lore and those amazing matches he had with Mike Awesome. Masato Tanaka would take a beating and then all of a sudden no-sell the hell out of something and then just level your butt. And that's exactly what Takeshita did. There was that one German suplex that Hangman threw, and he landed pretty much right on his head. Got right back up and ran him over. Like, oh my gosh.
I would assume that is a hallmark then of strong style, is the ability to absorb punishment and...
But the no-selling thing doesn't happen very much. I mean, the only person I've really seen do that, like, just beat down, beat down, beat down, beat down, beat down, no-sell it, and then just bam. Only person I've ever seen do that is Masato Tanaka. Masato Tanaka would do it with a chair shot, take 2 or 3 right on the top of his head, not go down, and on that third one, just kind of squat and just, and then just level the guy. Because I saw him do it to Mike Awesome a gajillion times. Takeshita reminded me of a younger and a lot more athletic Tanaka in that regard. A lot of strikes, a lot of elbows, not so many kicks as you see from a lot of Japanese wrestlers. His striking was all upper body.
Okay.
And it was a lot of this, a lot of this, which I ain't mad at. But I had never seen the guy wrestle before, and I'm watching just like you are, thinking, "Oh crap! What have I been missing?"
And we finally had an example. I'm sure you'll be able to name other examples. We finally had an example of my opponent coming up at the pay-per-view is on commentary, and he's actually doing his job. CM Punk's commentary is right now is incisive, but it's on point. It's on message. He's taking his eye off the ball. He shouldn't be looking at me, which is exactly right. It's what we're all thinking. It's why do you care that I'm sitting up here 50 feet away from you at the announce table? Wrestle the match. I know that's psychology and everything, but I loved it. I mean, Punk was there, and he actually enhanced the in-ring product, believe it or not.
The last time I saw anybody do that, where they were the guest commentator watching somebody that they're about to wrestle, the last time I saw that happen was a guy named CM Punk in WWE. Nobody else has done it. Anytime you've seen, anybody, it's a whole bunch of smarmy comments and there's no insight. It's them at the desk putting themselves over, which to me always takes away from what's going on in the ring. Because in my opinion, what should be going on in the ring is the most important thing. Yes.
Look at you, Miz.
No, there's one person worse than the Miz. Becky Lynch.
Oh, yeah.
Becky is horrible at it. Becky Lynch has no business. She has less business being at a commentary table than I do. Could you imagine how badly Corey Graves would just verbally massacre me on live television? I don't want any part of that.
JR, stick with me, kid. You'll be fine.
Right. But I agree with you completely that Punk, the only thing CM Punk has done since his return to pro wrestling is enhance everybody. Yeah, he has been on the receiving end of victory after victory. I think he's only lost once. But everybody that's worked with him has come out better than they did going into it.
Yep.
With a few exceptions. And I wanted to bring up one final negative because this literally just popped into my head. And RJ, in my discussions with him earlier this week, completely disagreed with me.
It'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah, I know. And I really want both of your opinions on this because I know Isaac laid out a lot of the Takashita conversation because he doesn't really watch Japanese wrestling, so he kind of leaves that for me and Brian, which is fine. But I need both of you to chime in on this, and I'm going to start it with this simple phrase: I am now bored to death with MJF. This is now the 3rd time we have had to watch someone go through stipulations to get a match with him. The first time, it was Cody Rhodes. We'll get to that in a second. The second time, it was Chris Jericho and the 5 trials of Jericho, having to wrestle those different guys. Having to wrestle Nick Gage, having to wrestle Juventud Guerrera, blah, 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 blah.
We love Juvi. Just want to say that, put it out there.
To what?
We love Juventud Guerrera. So just saying.
No, speak for yourself.
No, we love Juvi.
Nah, I don't. Anyway, here's the problem that I have. What stipulations that Wardlow has to go through in order to get his match with MJF?
He did the 10 lashes. And then it's a steel cage match versus Shawn Spears with MJF as the special referee.
What Cody have to do?
Same damn thing.
10 lashes and a steel cage match versus Wardlow.
No special referee.
No special referee. So I see where you're going with this. You feel like it's getting formulaic, and you feel like they have no original. There's no new.
No.
There's nothing new to mine there.
No, and you could do. You could tweet. This is not the first time in wrestling history that we have had someone, for lack of a better term, against their will, being forced to be subservient to another more rich wrestler. We saw Shawn Michaels have to do it with JBL. We've seen Virgil and Ted DiBiase. Those are the first two that come to mind for me. And both of those ended with the heel getting their asses beat in the middle of the ring. Well, obviously, we know where we're getting with this. And there are ways of building up Wardlow for this without repeating the same crap we've already seen.
The notion of him being brought to the ring in handcuffs with no entrance music, that part is cool because it reminds me a little bit of Goldberg. Not the handcuffs, obviously, but the entourage, the security entourage and all that. And it's the first time I can ever recall somebody no-selling lashes. I would not be able to do that.
I don't know how the hell he did that. I mean,
and I speak from experience because, real talk, when I was a kid and I would screw up, which happened quite a bit because I was no saint when I was a boy. My folks had no problem taking out the thick rawhide leather belt and opening up a can of whoop ass on me.
at least you
that shit hurts people. So
at least you got a belt. My grandmother, God rest her soul, would get the hickory. Get the switch.
No, I can't imagine that.
Oh, and my grandmother, love you, would hit every part of your body except your ass. My mom is literally laughing as I'm saying this because there was one time she literally caught me right behind the ear.
I remember you telling me that story. So, I mean, but my point is at least that treatment of it, because when Cody took the lashes, I mean, it was borderline uncomfortable. Like, why am I watching this? I should really turn this off. You know? But Wardlow, the first like 7 or 8, he's standing there and he's not even wincing.
He's pec flexing.
Yeah.
He's picking his teeth. He's just like.
When the camera finally came around, I mean, there was.
His back is the color of my chair.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that part was cool, but I see where you're going with it. What has me still tuned into MJF, though, is what he says. Because he still comes up with the way, like, he's going to, get booed out of the building, but it's the new and different ways he comes up with getting booed out of the building that has me, but you could find some other things to do. You could find some other obstacles to go through.
The only time I have found him to be entertaining in the ring was when he was getting the face pop in Long Island. That was awesome. But any other time beyond that, it's literally been rinse, repeat.
Yeah.
And for someone whose bread and butter is what they do on the mic and how they can hook the audience in, and that clearly overshadows their in-ring work, which is, to use one of his phrases, mid. You can't continue to do the same things.
Because it's an indication that you don't have any depth.
Right.
You've got the same, 8 index cards in your gym bag, and you just kind of pull them out and, okay, I'm going to go over this really quick. Okay, got it.
What MJF is doing from a verbal and creative standpoint is John Cena's 5 moves of doom.
Unfortunately, we're getting there.
Yeah. So the next person that MJF feuds with will have to go through 5 matches in order to be able to get their match with MJF. And it will be people from his past, and it'll be a hardcore person, and it'll be stupid crap like that. Actually, you know what? I just realized this. Wardlow's having to do both because he's wrestled people that were surprising. They brought in William Morrissey, who, dude, Big Cass is dead. William Morrissey is legit.
Oh yeah.
And teach that. But it's the same thing. And I'm just Wednesday watching that, I'm literally thinking, I want to change the channel. And it's not because I was uncomfortable, because I was bored. Like, I've seen this. I mean, it's a little bit different because Wardlow's over here just flexing, making my little skinny fat ass wish. I'm like, I wish I had 1/10 of that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, so that's it, right? That's all we got, right?
Thank you all. The music is playing.
Mwah.
We love you all.
Hold on.
So
let the credits roll right about.
Gentlemen.
What? We got the credits.
There is a 12-foot tall purple elephant in the room that we're not talking about, and you two keep.
Well, why does he have to be purple?
It was the first color that popped into my head.
What do you got against purple?
Nothing.
What do you mean, you people?
Didn't say that. And this is now 3 shows in a row. That's what's going to bring in the viewers, is the Tropic Thunder reference. What I hope my distinguished colleagues are not forgetting is the events that transpired before or during, depending on who you listen to, Monday Night Raw, involving the walkout, the apparent walkout, done by Naomi and Sasha Banks, who in case you need a reminder, are, despite all rumors to the contrary, your current women's tag team champions in WWE. You'd never know that because haven't really been a hot button feud or a hot button topic for creative, but they, from the reports that I read, the bottom line is they were dissatisfied with the creative surrounding the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. So either in the hours leading up to Raw being on the air or while Raw was on the air, they went into John Laurinaitis' office. They laid the belts on his desk. So I suppose we should be congratulating John Laurinaitis for being a tag team champion. Way to go. And they left the building. Yeah, people power. There's a lot of different ways to go on this.
Well, here, real quick, before we get into this is my way. I'm going to start on this.
Yo, bartender. Ooh, okay. Joe Boo needs a refill.
Good stuff.
Okay.
Good stuff. So, yeah, if we're going to have to go through this, I'm going to need a little bit of alcohol. Because, yeah, there's a lot to digest here. There's a lot to unpack here. And I have my own opinions on this. This is the first thing I want to say, and then from here I will open it up. But I wanted to get this in terms of a television show pacing thing. When the show went on the air, they instantly advertised a six-pack challenge to determine who would be the number one contender to Bianca Belair. You had Becky, Asuka, Doudrop, Nikki ASH, Naomi, and Sasha. That was your six-pack. Winner was supposed to go on to face Bianca. After the show was going, is when they made the announcement. First off, Becky cut the promo that Naomi and Sasha had walked. Then it was confirmed. Then Corey Graves calls him unprofessional on the air. Then, while the show is still going, before we've gotten to the main event, WWE releases a statement to the point where they made a point to say Monday Night Raw is a scripted television show.
What?
Gentlemen, if you think that this is a work, I'm sorry, but you need to have your head examined. This is as real as it gets, and furthermore, wow, I'm going Jack Tunney on this one. Furthermore,
wow,
anyone who's trying to tell me that they walked out before the show went on the air needs to have their head examined. And here's why. You are not, from a television standpoint, going to advertise that Isaac, Brian, and Patrick are in the main event in a triple threat to determine the number one contender. I'm going to, if they already know that I've walked out. They're not going, if they knew they were gone ahead of time, they would have been Chris Benoit. Their names would not have been mentioned on television. They wouldn't have made a single reference to them. The fact that they walked out mid-show, they got buried faster than The Undertaker in a match with a forklift.
And the only reason I characterized it the way I did when I led this segment off was because I've been reading multiple stories. And they start to blend together after a while. So that's why I didn't want to just say, okay, they left here, because I don't know exactly when they left. But now that you bring that up, you're right. You're not going to advertise this is what's going to happen. Oh, by the way, they're not here. You know, that kind of thing. Isaac, why don't you jump in there? Patrick, unless you're done. I'm sorry.
One more thing. You're right. You're not going to advertise that unless it is, and don't get me wrong, WWE has advertised, hey, this is our main event. And then they've changed it in the middle of the show, but that's all been based around a legitimate storyline. Not somebody walking out. Let me remind you, there have been 2 moments where somebody walked out in the middle of something major, and WWE's reaction was the exact same. Sasha, Naomi, Punk, Austin. Steve Austin took his ball and went home. CM Punk quit. How many times did we hear Stephanie McMahon say that? Corey Graves, Sasha and Naomi are unprofessional. Guess what? We ain't being lied to on this one, boys and girls. As much as WWE likes to lie to us, I'm sorry, but they ain't. Not this time. Yeah, they're probably spinning it to make themselves sound saint-like, which they're not. But the people that want to say that Naomi and Sasha were just standing up for themselves, bullshit. I will stop there. I have more to say, but I need you guys to say what you have to say. That way I can, because what you guys are probably going to say is going to further us along this timeline, and then that's where I get to jump, where I can comfortably jump back in without kind of beating you guys to the punch.
All right, Isaac, you're up, brother.
When I first heard the story, I thought about it. I was like, wow, it seems like it's a work. And you have the current tag team champions just giving the belts away. And it's like, that just doesn't seem right. You could have had somebody else. They could have dropped it. They could have done other things. But the creative part, just think, in my mind, is thinking to myself, they don't know what they're doing. I'm sorry. When you have the current tag team champions going for individual belt and going to be wrestling the world champions of Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, what the hell do you have the other women for? What are you doing? Where are we going with this? It was shocking. I was surprised that they did it. Did it seem like a work? Yes, it did. You know, did it go down that road? I was like, there's no way this is gonna happen. I thought that too. Um, the timeline is crazy. I've been listening to a lot of people talk about a lot of things. I don't. I listened to what you said, Patrick, about the timeline. You know, I heard Naomi was being manipulated by Sasha Banks. You know,
That shocked me, by the way.
huh?
If that part's true, I'm sorry, I'm not shocked.
It shocks me in the fact of being that Naomi is married to Jimmy, and Jimmy could have gone to Roman, and Roman could have said something to the creative team like, "Yo, this is stupid."
Sasha Banks, and I have felt this way ever since her appearance on the Broken Skull Sessions. Sasha Banks has an ego the size of Hulk Hogan's. And if she doesn't get her way, she boo-boo faces. This is not the first time she has bailed on WWE. Here's Isaac, you just kind of set it up for me. So I'm going to go, and then I'm probably going to shut up for a while. Here's where I have a problem with all of this. First off, both of you are making 7 figures with your endorsements, with everything else you got going on. Both of you are making 7 figures to do a job that any wrestling fan would kill to do if we had any athletic ability. Oh my God, could you imagine the 3 of us, if we weren't all just, bums, if we had athletic ability, how much of our heart and soul we would put into this? You guys have a dream job. But because a championship that hasn't meant shit since the Iconics lost it is something that is the hill that you're willing to die on. Now, bullshit. What's really happening here is the fact that you guys are being pitted against each other, and for some strange reason, you don't like the fact that you're going to be in main events with Naomi taking on Bianca, and apparently Sasha was going to be taking on Ronda. I personally would kill to see Ronda Rousey and Sasha Banks. That's a match that we haven't gotten yet, and I would be here for that. I would also be here for Naomi and Bianca because those are two women that are unbelievably athletic and shut up and take my money. But you walked out. You walked out on your job. And that's the part I have a problem with. You make 7 figures to do that job and you're going to walk out? Bite me. Brian walks out of his job. Brian decides that even though the school year's over, run with me here, people. Brian decides in the middle of class he's just going to walk out. Screw this. I'm mad because the principal said this and this and this. And no, I'm just going to take my ball and I'm going to go home. Same with Isaac. My boss gets mad at, my boss says something to me because I didn't put enough emphasis on this particular beer product as opposed to this one. And I'm going to just take my crap and go home. Guess what happens tomorrow morning? I'm unemployed. B's unemployed. Isaac's unemployed. And the fact that there are idiots on this wonderful world we call wrestling Twitter, and by wonderful world I mean toxic cesspool, that think that they're going to get released and in 90 days are going to be on an AEW. Child, please. Do you think Vince McMahon is that stupid? No. What he's going to do, if they don't ever come back, if they're done with WWE, Vince McMahon is going to pay their asses to stay the shit at home. And they're going to just sit there. They won't be on TV. They won't be allowed to work anywhere else because they're still under contract with WWE, and WWE won't release their asses. And Sasha Banks has a couple of years. I don't know about Naomi. I couldn't find her contract details, but I found Sasha's. Sasha Banks will sit on her ass for the next 24 months at least. AEW might not be around by then. I don't know what they're trying to pull. I don't know what point they're trying to get across. Because I use the phrase a lot. Pick the hill you want to die on. Is that the hill you want to die on? The WWE Women's Tag Team Championships, which haven't meant shit since the Iconics lost them. And the Iconics won them 3 WrestleManias ago. I'm done talking.
B.
I didn't think about it from that perspective. I mean, as soon as it happened, I'm like, this is a shoot. Because what else is going to make you do something that rash, in my opinion? And Patrick's right, gang. All of us that are, involved with Wrestling with Egos, and you find people out there that are listening to us and watching us, if you handle your business the way Sasha and Naomi chose to handle their business, at best you're getting a formal reprimand.
Best.
And at worst, you're terminated. I mean, I know if that were to happen to me, I'd be terminated. Because there's a structure. There's, and I'll borrow that line from the Austin McMahon feud. If you would just work within the system, I mean, we say that tongue in cheek with the Austin McMahon feud, but there's avenues to work within. If you feel like you're being disrespected, if you feel like you're being put to the side, I remember when there was a Gerald Briscoe interview from a long time ago, and I forget who he was talking about. Well, why don't you come up with something? You know, one wonders if Sasha and Naomi have bothered to come up with some creative of their own. If you're not satisfied with the direction the creative is going, let's see what you have. Let's see what suggestions you have to make these titles relevant. You know, and if it is, let's take all the women who aren't named Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair, and let's make the tag matches matter. Let's give the women TV time, and let's actually invest. Then yeah, that could be an avenue to do it. But the one part of my thought process that I didn't think about was what the contracts already look like that they have, and the fact that, you know, those matches that Patrick mentioned, you know, Bianca versus Naomi is fresh. I don't know that they've ever touched. Sasha and Ronda certainly haven't touched, because Ronda's been gone and Sasha's been hurt.
They did touch Royal Rumble, that one Royal Rumble where Sasha lost, and then four horsewomen her ass after the match.
That's right.
And guess what? So, I just remember that. And guess what, guys? Guess how good of a match that was? It was to steal a phrase from a great philosopher named Isaac Smith IV. It was gangster.
Let me just jump in real quick. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Real quick. But here's the thing. The match between Asuka, Becky Lynch, 5-star. And that's a pay-per-view that they gave us for free on TV. Thank you for doing that, even though it wasn't the original thing that they wanted to do. But thank you for giving us that match.
Here's my thing, and here's another excuse that apparently was given, that Sasha and Naomi were not comfortable working with Doudrop and Nikki ASH.
I've heard conflicting stories about that.
See, I
doesn't have that kind of a track record, and neither does Nikki. Do they?
No.
No, they don't. And everyone's saying they didn't have a problem working with them. They didn't like the direction of where everything was going. They said they wouldn't have a problem with this match, but you know, that's where they thought they were originally going with it. But then things got switched up, and they really wanted to do the match with Doudrop and Nikki, and it didn't go that direction. We also know.
Else I read was that the finish of the match was supposed to be Naomi getting the pin on Sasha. And I think that's where everything broke down.
Okay, so worst case scenario, you have a storyline now where, okay, Naomi's going after Bianca, and you can have a quote-unquote best friends imploding angle where Sasha's screwing Naomi, you know, and yeah, it could be a filler feud for Bianca, but then you could have another women's feud, Sasha versus Naomi.
Unless Sasha is turning into Hulk Hogan and say, that doesn't work for me, brother.
Yeah, I know. Again, that's the optimist in me.
Here's another way you could have done this. Okay, Naomi beats Sasha for the title. Instead of, why do we have to turn them heel? I seem to remember WrestleMania 21. We had WWE Tag Team Champions wrestling each other in the opening match, Ray and Eddie. Why couldn't we necessarily have Naomi go over Sasha? She's now taking on Bianca, but then Sasha takes the philosophy of anything you can do, I can do better, and now she's going to go after Ronda. So you literally have both members of your tag team champions going after the other champions. Hello. And furthermore, what happens if Naomi were to be the one to turn heel and not Sasha? And then she beats Bianca for the title. You have a heel Naomi with a championship, and she may or may not be married to one half of the SmackDown Tag Team Champions and becomes part of the bloodline. Shit, yes. I mean,
tune in next week for the next installment of how Patrick would book the. I mean, you just tossed that right off the cuff.
If I were booking this would have happened a year ago. This would have already happened. Naomi would have already been in the bloodline.
Yeah.
And instead of her being just the athletic gift that she is, she would have just turned into just a badass. Just listen to the woman talk. Look at the way she carries herself. Yeah, she's an athlete, as pure as the word can be. But you can truly hear in that woman's voice. She could be a badass if she needed to be.
Yes. So I think the bottom line,
to be credible at it.
Yes. I think the bottom line, to maybe if we're ready to put a ribbon on it all, it's how can I put this without sound? I'll just say it. I think it's a sign of what's missing in general in the world of work nowadays, is people have forgotten how to be professionals. The Lovebird bemoans this, a lot in her job, where people are paid a salary, but they don't want to do anything to justify being paid that salary. They're on their phones all the time, or they're taking a bathroom break every 10 minutes, or they're not meeting even the most basic of goals and things like that. I think this is another example of that. Like Patrick said earlier, you're earning a 7-figure salary when it's all said and done through your in-ring, your appearances, your merchandising, your souvenir sales, and all that. Certainly you can find a way to make it palatable for you, because you have people who would trade places with you in a heartbeat. I was about ready to come on here and say, bravo to them for sticking up for themselves, but really, what are they sticking up for? So Patrick and Isaac have both kind of flipped me on that, because I was going to be that guy that came out and said, well, I applaud them for, and in a sense I still do, because Sasha and Naomi are very opinionated women. We know this. They're proud women, and they've earned that right. I mean, you should always stick up for what you believe in. Even if you're the only one who believes in it, you should still have that self-belief.
Great.
But you also have to read the temperature of the room, and think about, do the negatives outweigh the positives on this one? Is it maybe better for me to just kind of ride this out, or participate in the fact that I'm earning this contract and actually come up with some ideas on my own? Wow, that's a great idea, Sasha. I never thought about it that way. Let's roll with that.
Dude, if I were wrestling for either one of the big promotions, trust me, I would be annoying the shit out of somebody, because I'd have an idea every week.
I know you.
Hey, how about this? How about this? How about this? And you know what? I would get 99 no's and then one yes. And that one yes, gone.
Yeah, I mean, that's the dream. I mean, you want your ideas to be taken seriously.
Right. And I'm with you. I still applaud Sasha and Naomi for standing up for themselves and standing up for what they believe in. But pick the hill you want to die on. And as a professional wrestler, ask yourselves, is the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships the hill you want to die on? For Sasha, especially Sasha, of all people, that better not be the damn hill you want to die on. as much as you've accomplished in WWE, not that hill, Isaac.
I just want to make mention that there might be something that we don't know. And
no.
And there's a lot of, I mean, look, we're sitting here, we're throwing hypotheses out here, saying they shouldn't have done this, they shouldn't have done this, but there might be some undercutting everything, and I don't know. I'm gonna sit here and say it, but look, if there's something else that we find out later, we will bring it to you as quickly as we possibly can, and
this thing is going to have more layers than the OJ trial. I mean, if anybody that thinks this is going to go away in a week's time, wrong. Try again. This is not going to go away. This is going to be a pain in the ass for a while, and we're going to have to sort through all. We are going to have to sort through all the information, disseminate fact from crap, and you people, along with us, are going to have to do something that sometimes can be a very dangerous thing. You have to make up your own damn mind. That's what we're doing. We are not telling you what to think. We're telling you what we think. And that's the beauty of all of this. Because, as you guys heard Brian, I was ready to come on here and champion them. And meanwhile, I was coming onto this show ready to go, no. Take your ass to work. Go punch the clock and do your damn job. Because guess what? I would kill to be making a quarter of your salary. A quarter of what you make. Don't.
19%. And that's all as low as I'm willing to go. Just give me 19% of what you're making.
Okay, let me say something really quick. As I hear what you're saying, I understand what you're saying. As I'm watching, this applies to Young Rock this week, and he and his dad are getting the most money that they've received in a long time, and he stood here and he was gonna have to do something that was against just his moral code. He stood there and said, "There's no amount of money that's gonna make me to do what they wanted me to do. If it's something moral and they're standing on their own ground, then I sit here and applaud them. If it's something that, they were like, oh, we can't do this, that, then stand your ground. I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, we don't know everything that happened.
Right.
And that could be something we find out later.
Right, and you're right. If it does come out that this was moral ground that they were standing on, then literally the last 30 minutes of this show become null and void because opinions become vastly different. But if this continues to be a pick the hill you want to die on, I stand on mine. Because let's be honest, and this is probably the one time I can honestly say this phrase and probably be truthful in this. If my hill is the hill I'm willing to die on, whereas that's the hill that those two ladies want to die on, I'm right and you're wrong. Because if you're not standing up for your own moral code, then you're not standing up for any code because you are refusing to do your damn job. And as role models, not only to women, but minorities as well, shut the hell up. Continue to put yourself in the position that you put yourself to be a role model, to be an example. Not that kind of example. We got enough dumbass examples in the world. We don't need Oh, we got Amber Heard.
I want to.
Yeesh.
We don't need more idiots. And y'all have been the exception to the rule this whole time. But WWE Women's Tag Team Championships, y'all. Be a role model, not. I forgot what I was going to say. Be a role
Whatever
model.
the opposite.
Wow. Then we'll get a picture of Sasha Banks and we'll put a Fu Manchu on her.
Oh boy.
Get a picture of her from when she was on The Mandalorian and the Beskar armor.
Fun with Photoshop, starring Patrick Spofford.
No, I'm not really that good at Photoshop. Premiere, yes. Photoshop, no. That's all I got, guys. I mean, we can continue beating this
That's
dead.
the long and short of it, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, does anybody else have anything they want to add to this?
Not the present time.
Welcome back, Alexa Bliss.
Yes.
She can step into the void, and she can, yeah.
Yes. Welcome back, Alexa Bliss. I like the new theme music too. It's like part Avril Lavigne, part Paramore, and I can dig that. I'm not a huge Avril fan, but Paramore, hell yeah. So if it sounds like Paramore, like Johnny Gargano's old music, yeah.
Glad you brought him up. Because I certainly thought that when the Jumbotron Wednesday said Johnny Elite, the name I was thinking of was not John Morrison. When it said Johnny Elite, I'm like, what a get. And then Morrison came out, and I'm like, oh, nice to see you. Thanks for coming.
When it said Johnny Elite, I knew we were getting Morrison, because trust me, if it was Gargano, we would have gotten Johnny Wrestling.
Yes.
That's
why I put in the show chat, thanks for coming, Johnny Elite, because Samoa Joe was standing there in the ring like, okay.
Yeah. This is now the third, and all of them, the third Joker I have been with. The other, that's one. Another one happened also on Wednesday night, because just unlike the majority of people, I don't get Maki Ito. I don't get it.
She's the cutest. She'll tell you. Just ask her.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Sure. And I don't get it. I don't get it. And the other one being Leo Rush. Don't get me wrong. I love Leo Rush. But as much as you had built up the Joker at that point, now it's going to be Leo Rush. Okay.
I mean, there needs to be a Joker that actually like would cause a seismic shift where you're like, oh my God, this person, like, now if it had been Johnny Gargano and Samoa Joe, that would have been interesting.
Yeah. I had my own thought as to who it was going to be, and I was disappointed that I was wrong. I was hoping for Claudio Castagnoli.
Oh, that would have been nice.
That would have been very nice. But at the same time, if we would have gotten Gargano, then everybody would have been really pissed off if Mrs. Wrestling wasn't Britt Baker's opponent.
Oh, that match would be sweet.
No, duh. But yeah, I don't think Candice is ready for the in-ring return, being the fact it's only been 3 months since the baby.
True.
So,
but you could give me a 30-minute Iron Woman match between those two, and I'd be like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Go.
But yeah. No, I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it for next week.
Okay.
Me next week, my thoughts about the whole concept of the Joker.
Okay. We'll make a note of that.
Absolutely.
So next week, it's a full-scale Double or Nothing preview, baby. Imagine how much more stacked the card is going to be by this time next week.
God. And to think, next month we have Forbidden Door.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Heads are about to explode, gang. Oh, and also in June, we're getting Money in the Bank at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's gonna be wild. So that being said, music's playing. That means it's time to go. So again, thank you guys so much for watching and listening to Wrestling with Egos. You can catch us up. You can catch us up on Twitter at WrestlingXEgos. Thank you guys for watching us on YouTube, listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Anchor, Intergalactic Radio. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, click the bell for notifications, leave a 5-star review, and don't forget, it is still the drive for 500 subscribers by the end of the year, and Brian gets to woo chop me.
Let's make it happen.
All glory.
Let's make it happen.
Let's make that happen. That being said, let's go ahead and get out of here. For Brian, for Isaac, my name's Patrick. We will see you guys next week on Wrestling with Egos when we preview Double or Nothing. Because a show like that is definitely why we love professional wrestling.